Welcome to Backstreet Gossip. News talk, current events, and political commentary. And now, here's your host, Ron Lutters.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show tonight. Welcome to Backstreet Gossip. We're very honored that you're listening to the show tonight, and we've got a really big show, a couple of hours tonight, and we're going to start out with some dynamite stuff. But before we begin, I want to tell you I would like you all to pay attention to our sponsors, and not only pay attention, but pay for their products, because they've got some really dynamic products. And also, we would like you to go on and like our show, pass it on to your friends, neighbors, and because you're going to get the truth
countrymen.
Here. And fellow countrymen.
Yes, I think that's...
And yes, we have a lot of things here that we're going to be telling you what's going on, and it's the truth of what goes on. We report the truth, unlike many of the, especially CNN. Joe Rogan took them to task. At any rate, I'm Ron Lutters, your host, and Mr. Ray Michaels.
Hello,
is
everyone.
with me. And we have a really good guest today. He's all the way in Washington, D.C., and he's ready for bed. He's had a really tough day, and that's Matthew Brainerd. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, can you pot that up a little bit? It
Okay,
is.
let me see if I can adjust it
Can you
over here.
Yeah, at any rate, welcome to the show. You've been a busy man. I've been getting reports on you all day from Julie Fisher here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I've tried getting a hold of you, as you know, and thank God you finally got back to me. I hear you have wall-to-wall meetings, and that's good. That's keep you out of trouble. Matt, we here have had some of the roughest times, I think, of anybody with the truth and the non-truth that's going on about the Arizona audit. And I'm an auditor myself, and Ray has been a candidate for the state senate, so we really pay a lot of attention to this. And as an auditor, I've watched, and I'm really impressed for the most part with what has transpired here. But we look at some of the things that the press had been saying. One of the things that has really upset me is somebody released some of this stuff, then we let the Democrats grab hold and get the titles and say, gee, they recounted the ballots, and surprise, surprise, Biden won again. And the way we address this is I tell people, if I owed you $1,000 and I pay you 10 $100 bills, and two of them are counterfeit, how much money did I really pay you? So let's go from there. And you've been at the front end of this activity, as well as the activity of trying to free the people that have been wrongly, in my opinion, arrested and held in Washington, D.C. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this and what's going on.
Okay, well, let's, I guess, start with the big picture then. I was responsible for data and strategy for President Trump's campaign in 2016. After that, I recognized a problem in our country where the left had dominated community organizing for generations. And when I say community organizer or community organizing, your audience probably thinks, oh, Barack Obama. And I remember back when we made fun of him for being a community organizer. I think that was a big mistake. It's an important skill to have. It's an important effort that we have to make, that we cannot surrender entirely to the left. And the right, just for a long time, has never really gotten the importance of community organizing. But when you see us losing battles at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level, a big cause of that is the fact that the left is very well organized. They understand the value of community and the value of having that community organized. And we on the right, we kind of have this laissez-faire, free market mindset that, this will all take care of itself. And the reality is it won't. And, Look Ahead America is the organization that I created to counter that. We are America First conservatives, America First patriots. And we embrace those values, and we work on the local, state, and federal level to advocate and to educate on the importance of community organizing. So at the local level, we're engaged on county level governments, trying to convince them to get rid of black box voting equipment, trying to convince them to end CRT in the schools. At the state level, we're trying to fight for voter integrity. We're issuing reports showing illegal ballots cast in states like Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin. And at the federal level, we're taking direct action on the abuse of the political prisoners that are being held as a result of their participation in the January 6th protests at the Capitol. We condemn all political violence, but a lot of the people being held, a lot of the people being charged to not engage in any violence at all. And they're being treated very differently than people have historically for engaging in exactly the same behavior, both before January 6th and after it. So all of what ties all of this together is simple: community organizing. And our primary mission in Arizona, something you didn't mention at all, I haven't mentioned yet, is actually voter registration. There are hundreds of thousands of people in Arizona who are either not registered to vote or are registered but don't show up to vote, who share our patriotic mindset. So our goal is to register them, educate them, and turn them out to vote. And that's probably the highest priority in a democracy of any community organizing effort.
You know, Matt, when we talk about the political prisoners from January 6th, I think about everything that was going on during that whole summer of love, right? So we know that people were causing damage. They were putting federal buildings on fire. They were rioting. They were beating people up. They were doing that. And you saw some pretty high profile public servants raising money for bail for people that we know, and it was on camera, that they were committing a crime. Yet now we have somebody like Jake, who's locally here, that we've interviewed on this show, and I've interviewed him, and it's been on this show. But somebody like him, nobody is standing up. These same high-profile public servants aren't standing up and saying, wait a second, they caused no harm. They went in, they were peaceful, they were praying, and some of the Capitol Police were praying with them, but they're still being held in solitary confinement without the option of bail, and it seems so double-sided, Ron. It's really amazing that over 10 months later, we can still have somebody in solitary confinement that didn't cause destruction and that was invited in to the Capitol building.
Well, Ray, we've talked about this many times, Matt, and we're of the opinion that these so-called crimes of insurrection were nothing more than a cheap, perhaps you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You take somebody, you say, there's a $250 fine, don't let it happen again, and go on with everybody's life. The violence that I saw in the Capitol and the videos that I saw were always on the other side. They were the Capitol Police and or those that were, I don't know what I would call them. I want to be careful.
Well, we have the footage, Matt, and you're probably well aware of this. We have the footage that they're not releasing that will show who was causing damage and who was peacefully protesting. And I'm not sure why and what the hiccup is, other than very deliberate. Why isn't that being released? And I know a lot of people are calling for that right now. Matt, are you part of that? Can you give us an update on that as well?
Sure. Well, I'm proud to say that Look Ahead America has been leading the battle on this, going all the way back.
Oh, and yes, you
January.
have. We've been following what you've done, and thank you for that. You've been a leader amongst men for sure, and women.
I appreciate that. I signed a letter on Look Ahead America stationery all the way back in January, where everybody was roundly condemning everybody who happened to be anywhere in the vicinity as terrorists, and white supremacists and insurrectionists. We sent a letter to the Department of Justice and to the FBI demanding that all charges be dropped against nonviolent offenders, which were the vast majority, even at that point, of the people who have been arrested. And at that point, it was, I think, around 200. Now it's, I think, cresting 700. Then we led a rally right outside the Department of Justice around the corner from the FBI. We got a permit for a protest. I pulled a flatbed pickup truck and I stood on it, and we had a small crowd there. And then a month later, we had another rally at the prison itself, so the prisoners could hear us singing songs. And at the same time, we had rallies going on in 9 other states. And then came the big rally, which I'm sure many of your audience are aware of, at the U.S. Capitol, where everyone was describing it as a setup, a false flag attack, insurrection 2.0. But we brought together a powerful crowd of 400 people and journalists that basically covered the globe, millions and millions of dollars worth of earned media to bring attention to this issue. And that weekend and the following weekends, we had 17 satellite rallies in state capitals all across the country. And what we found is that increasingly public opinion is on our side. We've seen surveys that show a majority of the American public believes the federal government is holding political prisoners, including 45% of Democrats. And this is not a partisan issue. This is a justice issue. This is a civil rights issue. And I'm glad that Look Ahead America was able to be the icebreaker that allowed many other more influential leaders to follow in our path. Because after we visited the Department of Justice, well, guess what? Some congressmen tried to go there and ask some questions. After we visited the prison, well, then we had some more congressmen go and try to visit the prison. We've had increasingly senators write letters. We had some very good senators advocating for release of this video. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done on this. And we're going to be launching a podcast where we're interviewing these political prisoners. And we're shooting the first episode this week. And we're continuing, believe it or not, we actually went to the United Nations and had a press conference outside the UN in New York City because we petitioned the Human Rights Council. And now that may not mean a whole lot to people on the right, but the left loves to run to the UN. So we thought, what better way to advocate than to go on their turf and go on offense? And we're optimistic about how that will be resolved, and we're calling on foreign governments to sanction our government officials who are perpetrating this crime of political persecution.
Well, I remember seeing the video footage of even our Congressman Paul Gosar was out there as well, along with some of the other ones.
And Ray, sadly,
Paul Gosar is a true patriot. He spoke at our very first rally at the Department of Justice.
And sadly, I have not seen, excuse me, Matt, I have not seen a lot of Republican congressmen at these events. And I'm very sorry to say that, because this is a time when these people represent us. And unfortunately, I don't believe we're being represented by a goodly number of these people. And Matt, you might feel the same. I know you're in a position where I don't want to put you on the spot, but certainly we should have every single Republican and a lot of Democrats as well that are complaining about this. The First Amendment, several of the First Amendment rights, certainly the Fifth and the Eighth Amendment, these are all really, really, really nasty. These are really nasty actions that the federal government has just taken at the hands of Nancy Pelosi, because she's in charge of the House and the Senate. Well, I don't know the Senate, but it's the Capitol Police, certainly. And I think they've really made some big mistakes.
I think it's a function of cowardice and stupidity. I am glad, though, for the members of the House who've raised the issue, who've tried to visit the prison, who've sent letters. I am grateful for Senator, I believe, Ron Johnson, for leading the fight on getting the video released. I'm also very glad that we have some potential future members of Congress who spoke at our rally in Washington, D.C. They came all the way to D.C. That would be Mike Collins, who's running in Georgia's 10th district, and Joe Kent, who's running in Washington's 3rd. And we said to any elected official or anybody who's running for office is welcome to come reach out and speak at our rally. And those are the two that stepped up. So look here. Let's go back to the beginning a moment. I said that Look at America is about community organizing. Okay, if this had happened to the left, do you think they would have had their people sitting in prison, nonviolent offenders, for 10 months?
No, there's no way. There's no way.
Well, there's a reason for that. Is that they would be able to march 100,000 people into D.C., completely shut the city down, doing civil disobedience, presumably nonviolent. If I could march 100,000 people into Washington, D.C., those people would be out within 48 hours. Now, you don't get to the point where you can march 100,000 people into Washington, D.C. overnight. You start off with, like our very first rally, marching in 20 people, and then it becomes 100, and then it becomes 500, and then it becomes all over the country. So we're at the very beginning stages of understanding what it takes to do real community organizing. And I'm encouraging your audience, look, there are no spectators in politics. You don't matter if you're a spectator. You've got to get engaged. Volunteer for Look Ahead America. We're very active in Arizona. We have, in fact, Look Ahead Arizona specifically in your state. Sign up to volunteer, and we will put you to work, because there's nobody else that's going to do this for us. It's you, it's me, and the people we gather that are going to make the difference. And we're starting at the beginning of something that is effectively a 100-year project. You look at one of the big left-wing agenda items, right? Universal health care. Good or bad, I'm not going to comment on that. But that for them was a 100-year project. And they went through a lot of times where they had setbacks and didn't seem to be getting anywhere.
Wow.
For us, we have to have the same long vision, and it's honestly, it's right in the name. Look Ahead America. It's not look at what's right in front of you, what's sexy or clickbait at the moment or seems to be topical. These are long-term structural goals that we have got to meet.
Well, we're very proud of your organization. We've been at a couple of
Absolutely.
the events. Oftentimes it's difficult for us. I think the one event you had here, I think Ray was there.
Yeah, we
And,
brought him on the show.
It was
Yeah.
the same night that
I
we
couldn't
do a
find
radio
my,
show.
Yeah,
so
I couldn't find my phone for the next 3 days, but it's
so
nice.
we were unable to really cover it the way we'd like to have covered it. And you have some events coming up here very, very quickly with Ken Bennett. Tell us about that.
Right. So a big part of community organizing is holding forums where local citizens can hold public officials accountable. So we are going to have 4 town halls all throughout Arizona. You can read about them at lookaheadamerica.org/town hall and register to attend them, where we will be featuring the Senate liaison to the Arizona audit, Ken Bennett. So Ken will be there attending essentially 5 hours of Q&A from the public at each of these 4 events that are taking place in Tucson, Maricopa, Prescott, and Lake Havasu. And we invite the public to come in. Hey, he's going to talk for a little bit about his take on the audit, and then he's going to take questions for over an hour at each of these locations. And it's not going to be phony Q&A where you write your question down on a piece of paper and we decide which ones we want to ask. It's basically, and you guys, you sound like you're not spring chicken, so you know what the Donahue show is, right?
Yes.
Basically, we're going to do Donahue. I'm going to be running the event, moderating it, and putting the mic in front of people's mouths so they can have their say and ask their questions. And I know a lot of people may be unhappy with Ken Bennett, some of the statements he's made, or they disagree with his take, or think he should do something different. But I do want to remind everyone that first, his role, he has no authority in that role. There are a lot of people with authority, though, like the Attorney General, the Governor, the Board of Elections in Maricopa, the State Senate, the State House. Those are people with real authority to either fix these problems ahead of the election or try to fix them after. None of them are daring to set foot on that stage and deal with questions from the public. So I really appreciate Ken Bennett's willingness to take 5 hours of fire and brimstone all over the state. And I don't, you don't see on that stage the people who ran the audit. You don't see cyber ninjas on the stage taking questions. You don't see the Attorney General up there or any of the state senators. And believe me, we have invited some, and we've been declined. So I'm hoping that everybody that comes asks really hard, difficult, challenging questions, makes their statement, but are also respectful and polite.
Well, our Senator Wendy Rogers, I think, has made some statements about this, and she's one of our favorites. We've had her on many times, but
Yes.
she's a real fighter. We've got several senators that are just really scrappers, and the President Trump had even mentioned them in many times.
Yeah. Now, Matt, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Ken Bennett was on this show here, Hub Radio Phoenix, prior to even going forward with all of the details of the audit coming up. And we had a nice panel here that gave him very strong suggestions on how things should be run. And Ron, I'm happy to say that Ken took a lot of those things as liaison, and he implemented a lot of the concerns that we had with regard to chain of custody, with regard to security, with regard to making sure that everything and everyone was protected during this, the full disclosure, the cameras going out. So we did have an opportunity, and Ken Bennett was a wonderful. I thought he was a wonderful choice because as Secretary of State, he's the only one in the history of the state who had actually done a recount of an election. So
Yes.
it wasn't brand new to him.
And not only that, but he's a real gentleman. He's the real thing.
He is, and I know a lot of
He's
people.
an honest man, which is, sometimes people get into politics and question that about people.
Yeah.
But I've always found Ken to be very, very forthright. And so I think your activity, Matt, is going to be really good. If I may,
Well, I just want to make one comment, though.
Yeah, go
before I
ahead.
continue. You did mention Senator Wendy Rogers. I consider her to be a friend and somebody I trust, and I appreciate her. I understand. And as I'm moderating these events as part of Look Ahead America, we're a nonpartisan nonprofit. I'm not going to get in the middle of anything. I know she's being critical of Ken Bennett, but I do appreciate her encouraging people to come out to this event and ask their questions and hold Ken accountable.
Yes.
So I'm grateful to her for that.
And that's the way it should be. That's the way
we want to make sure that everybody understands this too, is as a liaison, you have to work from all different angles. And although you may want something to transpire during this process, it may not be able to transpire because too many people there are making the decisions. And it does take a lot of courage, and I definitely acknowledge that, for Ken to be there. And I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of tough questions, and I'm sure that they're going to be hard on him. So kudos to him for showing up, like you said. I also wanted to make one other statement, and you started to your point, Matt, you started to give a lot of accolades to Paul Gosar, and I think it's well deserved. I know Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene were also there at the prison trying to get in, and they were on the committees that allowed them to get in, and they did not allow them to go in and look at the conditions of these political prisoners. And that's really why you're fighting for this, and you're bringing this really to the mainstream, because nobody else is talking about this. And Ron, it shocks me every time we talk about this that people are still unaware that for the last 10 or almost 11 months that people have been in not just prison, but
in
solitary
confinement
for something that, like you said, should have been, it's a $250
and the doors
fine.
were open and come on in.
It's a $50 fine, actually.
$50
fine. When we were at the rally in Washington D.C. and I think I maybe finished speaking, a woman came up in a pink shirt, and she was actually the founder of Code Pink, and you may remember that from,
Yes.
I think it was more of a Bush era thing but whatever. Anyway, she told me that she was arrested over 20 times for disrupting the Kavanaugh hearings at the U.S. Senate. Fined $50 each time, released the same day, set free to do it all over again. And then you have Jake, our good friend, who is I think a true patriot who's been turned into a martyr.
Oh, yes.
Who committed no violence, destroyed no property, just sort of walked in, was very kind.
And even asked that a
respectful
prayer
to
was
police
said in the House chambers.
Right, and he walks out and he's been held in solitary confinement, denied access, full access, I believe, to his attorneys, no option for bail, nothing. And this is like what you usually hear growing up. This is what you hear transpiring in other countries, not in our country. And well, look, we can poo-poo, it's terrible, it happens, but okay. Why is this allowed to happen? And the answer is because we have been negligent in engaging in real community organizing. And Look Ahead America is the action. I love talk shows. I love being on them. I like podcasts, all that stuff. But what we need isn't folks talking and telling us how bad things are. We need action, and Look Ahead America is the action.
Yeah,
And our motto here is liberty through action.
that's right.
Listen,
great
I'd like
motto.
to, we're going to have to, what are you taking a break, Mr. O'Connor? Okay. I'd like to take a minute here and read real quickly, and Mr. O'Connor, if you'd put on the screen how people can get tickets to these events. And I just want to go real quickly. On the 19th of October, we have an event, and that'll be in Tucson. On the 21st, do you have that, how they can get a hold of the Look Ahead America and get the tickets? On the 21st, there'll be one at the Scottsdale Studios, and that's our good friend
Yeah,
Susan,
Sue Wood, yeah.
Sue Wood, and that's quite a nice facility, and we may very well be there. Then on the 25th, there's one in Prescott, And finally, on the 26th, there's one in Lake Havasu City. So there's 4 venues that you can go to.
Right. Give us the website one more time, Matt, so that they can go there and go ahead. Is this lookaheadamerica.org/town hall? Is that correct?
That's correct. And we will be, technology willing, we will be streaming each of the 4 events on that page as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that will be good. Mike, were you able to pull that on the screen?
So once again, let's just read that out. October 19th, which is a Tuesday,
And that's
at
in-
the Hilton Garden Inn in
Tucson.
Tucson. And that's at the Tucson Airport Santa Rita room. October 21st, which is a Thursday, Scottsdale Studios. That's off Doubletree Ranch Road in Scottsdale. October 25th, Monday, the Community Room, Prescott Gateway Mall.
And for those of you that aren't from Arizona, it's Prescott, not Prescott.
Prescott. Prescott. And then October 26th, the Wednesday, at Chagrew's Restaurant and Brewery. That's in Lake Havasu City. You know what? I bet Sonny Borelli's going to be there.
I would imagine Lake
I think he's
Havasu.
going to be in the,
Matt,
that's his district.
I belong to this one organization. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's somewhat budding now, and it's
Boy
called
Scouts?
the Boy Scouts. No, this is mostly women. So, but
The
at
Girl
any rate,
Scouts?
at any rate, it's America the Beautiful, and they texted me today, and they would like to have a Zoom guest speaker that was action oriented. And I told them that I would ask you, and I'm going to ask you publicly, so it's going to be difficult to say no, that we could get you on a Zoom
The answer
call.
would be the same. The answer would be the same whether it was private or public. Yeah, I'd be happy to schedule that. Miss Julie.
Oh, yeah.
she
Yeah, Julie Fisher, yeah.
She controls my account. Yeah, she's a phenomenal worker, a true patriot.
Well, we've
and,
just done an interview with her 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. Ray did an interview
Yep.
with her.
Yeah, she's my right hand in Arizona, so I'm very grateful to her. If you reach out to her, she'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, this would be
I'm
wonderful.
grateful for the opportunity.
Okay, well, I'll set that up then through her and through the ladies at the America the Beautiful.
Matt, thanks so much. It was great seeing you at the event here in Scottsdale, and we thank you so much for being on the show as well. We have your website right here, lookaheadamerica.org and /town hall. Don't miss any one of those 4, and hopefully you can go to the website and it will be streaming there as well.
And it's on the screen now, although we're not. But
That's okay.
that's okay. Mom knows who I am.
That's right.
Hey, there we are. We're back. So, Matt, we're going to let you go because you've had a tough day, according to Julie, and I'm sure you know it better than she does. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 10 o'clock on the East Coast, so it's probably time that you retired for the day.
And keep fighting the good fight, Matt. Thanks
And we're
so much.
here. We're here to help. You've got my phone number, and I'll be getting back to you. And just count us in as members of your group to continue the fight. We're 100% behind you, Matt.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I was honored to be on your air, and I'll look forward to doing it again someday soon.
Okay, sounds good. Good night, Matt.
God bless.
Good night.
Wow, that's a great interview. He is a very dedicated man, and
Well, he was holding simultaneously in I think 9 state capitals.
Yes, he was.
Handling a rally. That's a lot. And for all of those of you who are out there, and you think, you know what, I really can't do this. I have very limited time. Do something. Talk about it. Send it out. Make a phone call. There's so many things that you can do. Get involved, and I'll tell you what, it gives you that wonderful sense right here when you get involved, doesn't it, Ron?
oh, it does.
Yeah.
And I'm a great fan of America. You
We
know
love
that.
America.
And when you think of the sacrifice of our founding fathers and all the wisdom of the world put into our Constitution, it really makes you proud that you're still supporting that document 240 some years
Amen.
later. And
Speaking of that document, we've got a great guest coming up.
well, we're gonna tease. We've been speaking with Matt Brainerd, and we have a great guest, a fellow that once again has studied the law, and we're going to be back on the other side.
Yep.
And so you're listening to Hub Radio Backstreet Gossip. Catch you on the other side. Do not go away.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our two-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
The creation of the cell phone has been an incredible technological advancement with many conveniences. At the same time, it became the largest vulnerable device the world has ever seen and destroys any privacies you think you may have. At any given time, multiple governmental agencies or hackers can be listening to your cell phone calls or intercepting your texts. Because of this invasion of privacy, the Defense Enabling and Assisting Framework, known as DEF, was developed to keep your personal and digital cell phone transmissions protected. To learn more, visit us at defprotection.com. That's defprotection.com. Make sure your calls, texts, and all digital transmissions are cloaked at all times. That's defprotection.com. Remember, privacy is freedom.
Are you tired of the long lines and impersonal service you get at the post office? Well, we have a solution for you. Pack Mail is an all-in-one mail center conveniently located in the Fry Shopping Center at 3218 East Bell Road, right here in Phoenix. Owned and operated by Arizona residents Mark and Vicky Battaglia, you can be sure of getting personalized professional service. They will pack, crate, freight, and ship your items anywhere in the world. They work with all the major carriers like DHL, UPS, USPS, and Federal Express. Need an address for your home business or startup company? They have P.O. boxes on site where you can receive and pick up your mail anytime, and their knowledgeable and courteous staff will find a way to ship that awkward or heavy item. You can even have your packages picked up and delivered for a small fee. Their motto is, if you can imagine it, we can ship it. Drop in on the good folks at Pack Mail and let them do the work for you. Pack Mail can be reached at 602-971-2300 or email at info@weshipphoenix.com. That's Pack Mail, 602-971-2300 or info@weshipphoenix.com.
Welcome back to Backstreet Gossip. News Talk, current events and political commentary. And now here's your host, Ron Lutters.
And we're back. Hey, look at now. There's three of us.
There is.
There are three of us, and the guy in the middle, his name is right under yours, Ray. So, any rate, we'll move that around as we go through the show. And it's Josh Barnett, and this is a really, really interesting fellow. He's ran for Congress before. I believe he's run for Congress again, and he is just a dynamite, loaded with information. And he's another one of these people, liberty through action. He doesn't let the grass grow under his feet. And
Ron, you know what I admire so much about Josh is that he doesn't take no for an answer. And when he believes that he stands firmly on the foundation of life and liberty and freedom and rights, that he will fight for it. And you know what? He takes his foundation directly from the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution.
And that's a pretty powerful document, or very powerful documents, plural.
In all state constitutions.
That's right. Yes, Josh, welcome to the show again.
Thank you for having me.
You're a popular favorite here. People always say, "We want Josh," and they chant.
I like coming here with you guys.
They
It's
light
always
the
fun.
torches. I mean, they're ready.
We were hoping to have your compadre, David Jose, on tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't quite make it. And we're hoping that we throughout the evening that we may be able to get him on the phone. He's a brilliant young man as well. And man, last time he was here, my head was spinning. He was throwing out things so fast.
Well,
and I go,
we
wow!
did an hour and a half YouTube live today that I think had people's heads spinning again. On,
Where can we find that? Can we find
maxims
that?
of law and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it's we actually used my page today. It's Josh Barnett for Congress on YouTube. I only got 1 strike, so I got 2 more to go before I'm banned.
So we've been banned. I think we might be coming back on. We've got some strikes
And that's exactly why I think I got banned.
because
All
of
right,
us.
so Josh, I know that
Okay, so
you're,
now we're even.
Yes.
I know that you're a lover of, like I said, liberty, freedom, individual rights, and all of that. And it's amazing how for 240 plus years that there was a document that is not that long, and that's withstood the test of time. Yet, year after year, we can't seem to balance a budget. We have laws that are thousands and thousands of pages that nobody could ever get through. And yet this one document is the glue that is holding everything together. How did we get so far apart from those original documents?
It's hard to pinpoint. You know, I think if you would have asked the people back in 1776, or, you know, let's say 1781, let's give them 5 years to learn, right? The people knew what their rights were. They saw what the British did to them. You know, they saw their rights being stripped. And I think we've been coddled here. You know, we've just nice and content. Everything's good. We're the most powerful country, you know, in the world for 200, like you said, 44 years. And we haven't had a whole lot to worry about outside of a few, you know, Pearl Harbor and 9/11 and certain things that had an attack, you know, on the mainland.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, the debacle of Joe Biden in Afghanistan. But we haven't had it too bad compared to the rest of the world. And everybody here is just, I think the contentment maybe, I don't, it's hard to pinpoint, it really is, because when me and David go on and we talk about the people's rights and what their God-given rights are, that cannot be abrogated. And when we tell people, they're like, I hold all political power. What does that mean? Well, it means you hold all political power. It means we the people granted authority to the Senate, to the House, to the federal. You know, we created the states created the federal, not the other way around.
Right.
You know, so
As most people
are taught
believe.
backwards.
Well, they think that the federal law, the federal law trumps individual and state rights, and
Yes.
it's just not true.
And it goes on and on and on. And you know, who would have thought that our government would be so fragile that in 10 months of this, I call him the Pino, president in name only, what a disaster this man has been, and the administration. And make no mistake, folks, and I'm going to look right at this camera one more time and say the same thing again. Those of you that thought that Donald Trump was rude and crude, think again. This man is rude and crude in another way. He's taking your personal rights, your fortune, and your sacred honor away from you and filling this country with people that don't belong here, that are not even being screened. They're telling you need to get a shot, you need to wear a mask, and yet the people that come into this country can come in here just oblivious to any mandates or laws.
The real insurrection's happening on the border.
Yeah.
You know, right now. So.
Well, you know, there was an article out today, Ron. I sent it to you, and I know you saw it, but we didn't have it here in front. But the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, yes, he said basically
I did read that.
Yes. Okay.
know
Go
what you're
ahead.
gonna say.
Go ahead, Ron. Go.
Well, it essentially said we can help all these illegals out by giving them a job.
Giving them a job. Don't send them back.
Give
Why
them a
would you do
job.
that?
Put
So
Americans
ICE
out of work because
yes.
they'll work a lot
Did
cheaper
you,
than
did you
Americans.
see this, Josh?
Yeah,
So
I
basically,
thought 4.3 million Americans aren't taking jobs right now, but we're going to give illegal immigrants jobs.
Well, it's basically abolishing ICE, right? We have an immigration system. Now, let's take it back. And Josh, I know that you know this because you know history, Ron, you as well. So before, we didn't have an entitlement program. When somebody wanted to come to the country, they would either need to be sponsored or have the means and the health, because they did health checks, and if you
They
weren't
did.
healthy,
You
they
got
sent you
sent
back.
back.
And there were no giveaways. You came here, you worked hard, you made something out of
A
yourself.
merit-based system.
Merit-based. So basically, you can have open borders with no benefits, and you're going to be okay. But when you have open borders with benefits, it is a black hole that will suck everything out of this country.
It's unsustainable, financially unsustainable. And
Barack
it's,
Obama said that.
It's yeah. Even Barack admitted it just recently.
Yes.
Just within the last month. But it's for the left, I shouldn't say, for the Democrats in general, not to be able to look at this and be like, this just doesn't make sense. You cannot be an open borders country and be a welfare state.
Yeah.
You can't do it. It's impossible. And I'm not saying we don't help people. We need to help us first before we help others.
Absolutely.
Well, we talk about this, and of course, you gentlemen know that a lot of illegals are being housed in beautiful hotels in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is considered a lot of people call it Snobsdale because it's a very nice community.
It's a resort
And-
destination.
Right, and they're taking illegal aliens, putting them there, and American veterans, people that have fought. They've either fought or they've been in the military to protect and defend our great Constitution, are sleeping under bridges or on the street.
It's
It doesn't
unconscionable.
make sense.
No. So do you think, from a historic standpoint, I know the early part of the 20th century, right around the 1900s, they started taking more and more power, creating the IRS, the Federal Reserve System, the welfare state. They started saying, look, we need to take care of you. And the people at the time were saying, yeah, I'll take free money. And somebody had recently said, if you go to somebody and say, would you like a free check? They're going to say yes. But if you say, would you like a free check, but we're going to take away a lot of your rights and liberties, they're going to say, no, I don't. So what they're doing is they're offering something, but they're not presenting the consequences
Not yet,
to
right.
taking that money.
Yeah, back to Roosevelt. Anything post-Roosevelt, you really see the difference. You also see
Well, Wilson too,
Well,
right?
it was-
Woodrow
yeah,
Wilson was the main culprit.
for the Federal Reserve. and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So you also see, and what David and I have been diving into is the grand juries. So you see the bar taking control of the grand juries, and then when we first had the grand juries, when the people were deciding who was going to get charged or indicted, so the problem became they were charging elected officials. They were holding them accountable, and
What a great concept
well,
that was. huh?
imagine how that would be today.
Right.
And that's we'll get into that a little bit later. But now what happened was the bar saw this happening, the government officials saw this happening, so they started doing what the CIA did with the term conspiracy. They started discrediting the people that admit it. So the grand juries, you guys aren't smart enough. You're nothing but peasants. You're farmers. You're not smart enough to know the law like we do. So you guys are not good enough to determine anything. That's what they started telling these people.
Right.
So they started taking the grand jury, the power away from the people, and putting it back into their pockets. And then they can go and do whatever they want. And with no accountability, or very little accountability, because now we see no one being held accountable. Now, can you imagine if we had the Clintons and stuff that happened
Oh my gosh.
in front of a grand jury? Can you maybe Durham, maybe we will see that.
Well,
someday.
they should be in jail for many of the things, especially Hillary.
Well, Haiti and everything else.
This whole fiasco with Trump and Putin was just all made up, and it was Hillary that did it.
Well, look at the Biden laptop. I mean, it's
Oh
crazy.
yeah, with the son. Listen, I want to go back to something because we are white, and we obviously are racist, right?
Yeah, but I
Because we're white.
identify.
But you identify as a black person, right?
I
No,
didn't
but
say
I
that.
want to get back to Woodrow Wilson. Perhaps one of the most racist presidents this
yes.
country has ever had. And we've had a lot of racists early on.
You know what? This conversation right here almost got my stepdad and I into an all-out war over Christmas last year.
Wow.
Really?
This is for real. This
Was
is
he
We
Woodrow
don't want to
Wilson
bring up
fan?
any bad memories.
no, this is a true story. And I, being me, I had to prove my point because I was right. Now, if I was wrong, I would have just kept my mouth shut and took the.
Said Merry Christmas.
You know, yeah, I said you're right, Red. You know, you're correct. But okay, so Wilson, you guys know where he's from, right? You guys know? Texas area. Okay, so they live in Fredericksburg, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
He lived just outside of Fredericksburg, about a half hour away, is where he's from. And it's funny because I brought up, he's the most racist president we've ever had. And he was.
He was.
Oh man, he took offense to that because he's a Texas guy, and grew up not too far away.
Right.
And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? And I was like, well, what he said, right? So I showed him. I didn't say it. I
Couple
showed him.
quotes, right?
Yeah, a couple quotes and a couple of very bad words, the N word that he used, and it was. He didn't want to accept that. He didn't wanna, and I go, Rich, I know history, and you are 100% wrong on this. And Rich is a great guy, amazing guy. He's very successful. He's very smart. But when people get dug in
Yeah.
to a line of thought, he didn't know this. He didn't know he said this.
Well, they try not
They just don't want to look at
Yeah,
it.
they try not to let history get in the way with what they believe.
Well, there's one
It's
other
like
thing.
Trump. I felt like the Trump thing. They're so dug in against Trump, no matter what.
No matter what he
He
did
could
was
cure
going to be
cancer.
wrong.
We hate Trump. Well, we hate cancer now. Or we love cancer now. It's the same thing that happens now, but with him, because they're so dug into their way of thinking. that
Hey,
it's
Ron,
crazy.
I wanted to bring up one thing while we're still on the subject. So, the whole grand jury thing where these attorneys felt that they knew a little bit more and the law was important. And at the beginning, case law was not as validated as it is now. And this has been a big issue because case law is only one judge deciding that I think it might be this way. And then everything following this, you know this, case law is not supposed to be the basis of the intent of the law to begin with.
Correct.
And I think that that's been a huge hurdle for people because they'll say, well, it was already tried and they said it was this way.
But that goes with the concept that they're correct in the
Right.
the-
Right. And a lot of,
like the Dred Scott decision was exactly the wrong decision that any court should have
but
made.
it was case law.
But when you know who was on the Supreme Court, you'll see why. Most of them were Southerners because our early presidents were Southerners. They nominated the people to the Supreme Court. They were slave owners. One of the justices of the Supreme Court actually quit during the Civil War and became a Confederate general. But let's talk just for a minute about what the Dred Scott decision was. And it's very interesting. Dred Scott had been a slave, and in a southern state, which was a slave state. Many of the northern states disavowed slavery. So he moved to Wisconsin, and he was no longer a slave. He was a free man. But then he moved from there to Missouri, I believe it was. And Missouri was a slave state. Even though it did not leave the Union, it was a slave state. It was a northern state in the war. But and they said, well, now you're a slave again because you're in a slave state. The Supreme Court.
Who is he a slave to?
Well, I think the guy that was his master, I think he went with him and from the south to the north, and I think he stayed with him, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right.
And then he went back, but then he was a free man in the north. But then when he moved to Missouri with the guy that had been his man, he worked with the guy. It's like you and I work on radio together. So
Right.
one town you're a slave, and the next town you're a free man.
Wow.
So that was a bad decision. I mean, so anybody that says the Supreme Court makes decisions that are accurate. Now, the important thing here, Josh, is they make decisions. They do not make law.
Right.
And that's one of the things, and I think it was Andrew Jackson as president, the court said something, and he said, that was your decision, that was your opinion, mine's different.
Right.
And by the way, I'm the commander-in-chief of the Army. What do you think of that?
Well, Josh, they take a microcosm, just a small little portion, and they make a decision on that one case, and then everybody thinks, well, they've made the decision on there. It must be a blanket decision, which it is not. Now, I'm a firm believer in what the Constitution says about the Supreme Court. And people think that it's a lifetime appointment. It is not a lifetime appointment. It says you will stay a Supreme Court judge for good behavior. And historically, there have been Supreme Court judges that have been removed from the bench for bad behavior. Now, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg, no matter how you feel about her, some people like her, some people don't, when she made a comment about then candidate Trump, and she said, I don't like him, that, in my opinion,
Disqualifies her for being a justice.
It would, because anything that came up, according to him, we already know that she's biased. So she should have been removed. Recently, Sotomayor had said, I don't like about this, the Texas decision, and this isn't right.
That was the decision on abortion.
On abortion. And that is bad behavior, because you know what? Once they're in that position, they need to keep quiet and not give their own opinion, only deal with the cases. Do you agree?
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to deal with the law and the Constitution, right, and not their opinions. Much like our legislators are supposed to make decisions based on the will of the people, not their own.
Right, right.
And that's why they're called representatives.
Elected servants is what I call them.
So, you've been studying this now for a long time, Josh, with David Jose, and what a great guy. And there's so much information. I mean, it is literally mind-boggling and head-spinning. So you've been working with him now for quite a while. What would you say is the one thing, or the several things, couple of them, that you said, wow, and it just blew your mind when you found out the reality of what the Constitution says?
I think the number one thing, and I tell people to learn, is the difference, and we've talked about it a little bit before, between private and public, and people and persons, because it directly affects you and what you think applies to you.
Okay, so let's break this down. We the people, right? So we are the people.
Correct.
All right.
And that's the way the Constitution begins. It doesn't say we the elite,
Right.
we the Congress. It says we the people.
All right, so give us a difference between what it means to hold the title of a person as opposed to the people.
Okay, well, you'll see what we use here in Arizona. It's ARS 26317. And
Okay,
what I'll
write
do-
that down.
I'll pull it up for you real quick.
one more time. Give it to us.
ARS
Arizona
26-317.
26-317. Arizona Revised Statute.
I'll pull it up and I'll read it to you guys verbatim, so we have it, okay?
Okay.
Now this will clearly show, and luckily my phone is 5G but not doing anything. Give me 1 second.
I can bring it up too.
While he's looking at that, I
Here we
wanted
go,
to
here we
say, go ahead.
So it says, any person who violates any provision of this chapter or who knowingly fails or refuses to obey any lawful order or regulation issued as provided in this chapter shall be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. Now, this is what they used, what the governor used, to shut down businesses, to fine businesses, so we're good boys.
And by the way,
good
we
boys and
do
girls.
want to say
So-
that your business was shut down.
Temporarily.
Yes.
Yeah. So any person, and not people,
Any
right?
person.
Any person, okay.
Now, the second half of the provision says, this provision does not apply to the refusal of any private organization or member thereof to participate in a local emergency or state emergency as defined by this chapter. So by me moving my business into the private, there's an exemption to what they're saying. So what person applies to is government officials, people who've taken an oath. They don't write statutes to bind the people. They can't. So if you look at Miranda versus Arizona, you're going to see basically, I'll paraphrase here, but it's going to say, we cannot write legislation that will abrogate the rights of the people. You cannot do it. It is illegal to do. You cannot take away any of our God-given rights, no matter what. So whether it be deemed, and I got told by other senators here too, that, well, if it's statute of law, it's constitutional. I said, really? Is it? Because I see laws being deemed unconstitutional all the time. They just have to get challenged.
Right.
You know, but so that's not true. But they really believe that.
So
that, you know, it's a rough road between what they understand and what they don't. But the statute does. What I'm saying is that statute, if you really want to break it down jurisdictionally, does not apply to the people.
So
it binds them.
So we, the people, are private citizens.
Exactly.
All right. And a person is somebody who takes an
the public.
oath, an oath, right?
To
But tell
uphold
us-
the law.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us what that oath is. What oath do they take?
Well, the oath they take is to the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution, and to uphold our individual rights, because they work for us.
Of course they do.
You know,
So-
why would we put somebody in office to write laws against ourselves? That makes no sense.
Right. So, and I want to make sure that I get this right. So we, the people, are private citizens. The persons that they're talking about take an oath to protect the rights of the people, the private citizen.
Yeah, correct. And that's how they bound us, or thought they bound us. Some people, and here's why. Because when you go into business, you're in commerce, okay? Most people operate under an LLC, an S-corp, or something, one of the two, typically. And what that does, when you do that, you're kind of engaging in a contract with them, saying they're going to have control over you at that point. So what we do in the private is say, I'm not operating under my LLC. I am now in the private as a membership association, as a private membership association. And as an association, you have no authority over me.
Wow. Now, how did they become a private association?
I let David handle all that. He's the expert on it.
Okay.
I literally tell him, go talk to David. but there's David right here. But there's a process. There's an Autocross organization. There's a specific process on how to do it.
Okay.
You want to try to take this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how we can turn that in unless he calls. That's
Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I got you live on the show.
How'd you do that?
I just have you on speaker.
Oh, okay, nice.
It's got an iPhone. It's no
My
jack.
signal may
Yeah, it's gonna
mess
cut.
up
Yeah, it's cutting out on
a
us.
little bit for a few guys.
Yeah.
Does he want to call us back?
Listen,
when
we're
he's in a
gonna
good
we're gonna
spot?
take a break here, and we'll see if during the break we can connect you. Don't go away, David.
Hold on one second, David.
We're gonna take a break here. I'm gonna try and make this work.
Ron, this is amazing stuff that you need to write stuff down. You need to follow this, and you need to do some more research. We're going to come back here with some great stuff. We hope to.
Hello everyone, my name is Martha Angeli Chansley. I am Jake Angeli Chansley's mother, and I'm holding a benefit concert for Jacob on October 24th from 4 to 6 at Scottsdale Studios at 9445 East Doubletree Ranch Road in Scottsdale, Arizona. We are looking forward to our special guest bands, Thorn and the Rose, and the Mega Boys, Bryson Gray, Kelvin J., and Tyson. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. We're going to have a raffle, and we've got some other surprises in store. I want to thank you all for all your prayers, well wishes, and your love for Jake, my son. He has a lot of friends in the Phoenix area, and we surely appreciate your support. It's difficult being in solitary confinement, coming up on 10 months now in an 8x10 cell. So it really is appreciated, everything that you're doing. If you would like to send letters to Jake, where he is in Alexandria, Virginia at this time, it would be to Jake Chansley, Alexandria Detention Center, 2001 Mill Road, Alexandria, Virginia, 22314. Jake is a true patriot who loves this country. He even served our country. We appreciate that you understand that not everything that you see on TV and in the news is the real truth. So I'm very excited about this event. It's amazing how it's all come together, and the folks that have helped. I can't express enough thank yous to everybody who has contributed and will be contributing to this event. The folks that are in the background that are going to be taking care of security, or the performers. That's another exciting thing about it, is how that all came about. And I can't thank you enough. And this event is very, very exciting, and I can't wait. We are requesting letters of support for Jake Chansley to be sent to Albert S. Watkins, Codner Watkins at 1200 South Big Bend Boulevard, St. Louis, Missouri, 63117. Email address is al@kwklaw.net. The support letters will be filed under seal for viewing solely by the judge. Any support in this undertaking would be much appreciated. Thank you, and God bless.
Medicare, for someone new to it, can be a very complex thing to understand. Honestly, unless you are a professional like me, I don't see why anyone would bother trying to learn all the ins and outs of it. Hi, I'm Peter Martin, Senior Planning Specialist. And I'll tell you that after many years of helping clients with Medicare, I would approximate that 80% of seniors are in a Medicare plan that is not ideally suited for them. That's a high number, 80%, but it makes sense. Let's face it, the government does not exactly make Medicare easy to understand. Even once you understand it, there are subtle changes from year to year. Most people have better things to do than to keep up with these changes. Considering that my services as a Medicare broker are free to you, I recommend that you outsource the Medicare plan research task and free yourself up to pursue the more enjoyable aspects of life. It's my job to make sure that my clients minimize their medication costs and retain their favorite doctors and specialists within their networks. I will keep up with the annual changes that take place in your plan and will definitely alert you to anything noteworthy. I'll be a resource for you throughout the year as well. You may want to know the patient ratings of specialists to whom you are referred. You may need help with claims or prescription issues. I will be there when those things come up.
Welcome back to Backstreet Gossip. News talk, current events, and political commentary. And now, here's your host, Ron Lutter.
Well, welcome back. I see myself on here, and glad we're broadcasting. I'm not sure the sound is proper here, but if you can hear me, we're back. We have Josh Burnett and, of course, Ray Michaels, and we're trying to get on the phone. We have a little bit of a problem. Pardon me. We have David Jose, brilliant young man, and he's in his car, and he's traveling through a staticky area. So we're going to continue on. If you turn that mic down a little bit so we can't hear that, when he gets into a clear zone, we'll try to talk to him.
You know, Ron, we were talking about Woodrow Wilson.
Yes. And there's some things about Woodrow Wilson I think that need to be noted. First of all, and you know how I feel because I'm really sick and tired of Democrats calling Republicans racist. Because if there were ever racists, they were Democrats. Woodrow Wilson, as you said with your argument.
Let me correct myself real quick because I told Ray, and I had a brain fart there. When I was speaking on the particular person who said the terrible stuff, it was LBJ.
Oh, another one, yes.
And
Yeah, wasn't that a coffee?
I believe Wilson was from, I think, Virginia, but LBJ.
He was the Texan.
He was Texas.
So I apologize for that mix-up there.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I didn't know that he was from. But at any rate, let's get into this thing. Woodrow Wilson became president the early part of the 20th century. And one of the things is, during those days, the government of the United States was integrated. There were blacks and whites that worked side by side in the government.
Right.
And as it should be. I mean, they're all citizens, and
They're
blacks were
Americans.
citizens. They're all Americans, and yet Woodrow Wilson saw to it, and there were some very, very well-educated black people that had gone to visit with him, and he says, no, he's going to segregate the country. So what he did is he had, like I'd say, the Treasury Department. He'd have the black people working on one side of the Treasury Department. We're still having trouble with this.
Can you put it off hands-free until you're ready to bring me in?
Here, I'm going to hand this back.
Take it off speakerphone.
And so we were joking a minute ago that we think that David was driving the Batmobile and he had it in jet mode. Whoa, there we go.
With the roof off.
With the roof off. But at any rate, so what Woodrow Wilson did is segregate the entire federal government. And this was in the 20th century. I mean, it was like 40 or 50 years after the Civil War.
So everybody,
and he was still trying to segregate the country.
So everybody can wrap their heads around this.
And
so
he was a Democrat, I wanted to say that.
We come into the 1900s, right? The 20th century. Right. And there's integration, full integration. There's no separation, right? But he felt
essentially there was none.
I mean,
I'm sure there was, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't supported by the government.
A legal standpoint.
And he implemented segregation, starting then back in the early 1900s.
Yes, and to me, Woodrow Wilson was he had something else that bothered me: the League of Nations. What is that?
Right.
What is the League of Nations? It was the progenitor to the United Nations. Didn't work.
And the NWO at this point.
It did not work, just as the United Nations does not work today. Now let me explain that. We just saw the Biden debacle in Afghanistan. And we saw human rights violations. We lost American troops. Human rights violations that were just unbelievable. And the way people were executed. Where was the United Nations? Did you hear anything? Did the media?
I know where they are.
Crickets?
They were here telling us how racist we are.
Yeah, they were in the United. Yeah, there you go. There's the cricket sound. I mean, but did you hear the mainstream media say, "Where is the United Nations"?
No.
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 Where was CNN?
No.
No. Where was MSNBC? No.
No.
But we talked about it.
We did.
And you know, folks, if you really want really honest discussion about what's going on, you need to tune into Hub Radio. We don't mince words. We tell it like it is. You know, we're not journalists, but we're certainly not afraid to say what's on our mind, especially Josh Barnett. I mean, this guy's always in trouble.
Josh, you're a big fan of Batman. I see him riding along with you with ride-alongs all the time. And, you know, Batman was always one of my favorites.
Well, they haven't ruined him yet.
No,
but
Robin,
they have ruined Robin.
They ruined Robin,
and Superman.
And so Superman. Josh, did you hear what's going on with Superman?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Hollywood ruins everything at a certain point in time.
Now, his son is coming out as not knowing which sex that he likes.
Which gender he was.
But here's the thing: it used to be he stands for truth, justice, and the American way. And now the American way has been removed,
And
and
it's
it's truth,
truth and
justice,
justice.
and it's like
I don't know
like
what the rest is. I
like
think it's just truth
better.
and justice.
No, it's like better mankind, or it was something. But they took out the American way, and when you have something that is so powerful and so inspiring to so many people over the years, why would you take out the American way? Can you name another country who has the wealth, the prosperity, and the opportunity that America has? Can you name another country?
There isn't one. That's why everybody wants to come here.
So why take out truth, justice, and the American way?
Because in order to push their social agenda, they have to destroy what we have currently to make a new path, right? To make a new way. Plus, remember, who's really running Hollywood? China is.
Yeah,
The
they
CCP
own.
controls Hollywood. So, you don't think that they're trying to infiltrate and push stuff like this through?
But it's strange how, and we talked about this on another show, how the Chinese have just put a law against the sissy boys, right?
Yeah.
The feminization of men. Yet here, it's being encouraged.
You know, one of the interesting things, talking a little bit about racism, and they say, well, the white people are against brown people and black people. But why is it on our borders we have brown people and black people that are clamoring to get into this racist country? Because they know we're not racists.
Yeah.
It's only Democrats that call people racist. You'll find that nobody else says that.
Well, like you said, look throughout history. You got Wilson, you got LBJ. You have the 94 crime bill was written by Democrats. Anything that was positive for the black community came from Republicans.
But didn't you find that that Barack Hussein Obama also, he was in a very unique opportunity to unite people, and he separated them more? I mean, when you say that could have been my son, well, you're not bringing people together. I mean, we are reaping the fruit of the seeds that he planted.
Well, all too often he would make comments like that, not knowing all the facts of a case. It's just based off emotion. Because we would come to find out later, the hands up wasn't really hands up.
No,
we
it
found
wasn't.
out. We found out many other
fallacy.
things, even with Trevion and what happened with him. Unfortunately, there were other parts of the story that weren't being told, at least initially.
Yeah.
So pretty much every time that something like that would happen.
Even George Floyd, there was a lot that wasn't told. Mr. O'Connor did a video about him, and the man was not a nice person.
No, if you had as much fentanyl as he had in his body, Ron, you would not be here.
I would
Josh,
be dead.
you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be. I think there was more than enough to kill all three of us.
Well, I think he had 11.5 nanograms per milliliter, and I think he died at like 9, and he had like 11.5, if I remember correctly. So, not that I looked into it much, but I wanted to find out because that the officer shouldn't have done what he did for that long. I still think it's pretty stupid to sit on somebody's neck for however long he did. I mean, you can hold him. He was already cuffed and restrained. But with that being said, the guy had enough fentanyl to kill 2 people in his system. So, the cardiac arrest, like they said with the autopsy, happened from the fentanyl.
Now, you had mentioned that the feminization of America. You said it's happening somewhere else as well.
Well, I think you see do you remember within the last year, the Russians came out with a military video about, it was a really tough masculine video. And then they showed us and we're almost prancing around,
Right.
Chanting social justice warrior stuff.
And they had, instead of having macho soldiers, and I'm not saying that women are not macho soldiers.
Some can be.
But the
some women
bottom
that are
line
tough,
on it, they showed women saying, oh, gee, we want to go in the Army. It's a softer, gentler Army. Well, no. Armies are not supposed to be soft and gentle. They're to break things and leave souvenirs. That's what military's for. That's why you make the world fearful to see your military. You don't want them to see your military.
Well, you definitely don't want them thinking you're soft and weak.
No.
And that's the image that we're portraying now, and I don't like it, and a lot of people I know don't like it, and a lot of my constituents out here don't like it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to a couple of these things about what's going on in the world. if you look at what's happened in the last 10 months, only 10 months, our borders are being overrun. Inflation is becoming out of control. How many of you have filled up your car lately with gas?
Yeah.
It's at least $1 more per gallon here in Arizona.
In just the last under a year.
And in California, I'm hearing that it's $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
Now, I went shopping yesterday, Ray, and I love bacon.
Yeah, I like the shirt.
Yeah, well, I got it off of the sale rack in your house when your garage sale. But at any rate, bacon used to be a pound of bacon. Remember when they were 16 ounces? Now they're 12 ounces. $5 at the dollar store.
Wow.
And in the regular store, it was much higher than that. It was about $6, $7 for 12 ounces of bacon. Okay, so let's continue. That's just another little thing. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening with the supply chains off the coast of San Pedro, California.
Pete Buttigieg. The Secretary of Transportation.
Now this guy is the Secretary of Transportation.
You know why?
I know
you know
why.
what qualifies
Hold
him?
on, wait. Do
you know what qualifies him to be the Secretary of Transportation?
He owned a car once.
No, he likes transportation.
He likes transportation. So let's before we
Great
tell the story. This guy was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. A beautiful place. I can't believe they'd ever elect a person like this. The man has some, I think, wrong. But I mean, this is you can enjoy people of the same sex. You can actually marry people of the same sex, which I think is totally wrong, because I believe the Bible to be the word of God.
Well, the Defense of Marriage Act is still in play.
Yeah, but they don't pay attention to that. So now this man is the wife of another man, and he is the Secretary of Transportation at a time when the supply chains are all messed up. But Ray, what happened in August?
Well, Josh, you've seen this, right? Out in just off Long Beach, San Pedro, there are, I believe, thousands of massive tankers. Now they have, you've seen the size of a container. They hold 80 or 100 containers on these ships.
Yeah, and they're between 20 and 40 feet long.
Right, just massive. And here is the Secretary of Transportation on paternity leave for the last 60 days when the shelves are going bare, ships are waiting to come in. Josh, what the heck is going on?
And this guy adopted
How much fuel do they
twins.
have? Think about that. If you're sitting out there and they're like, hey, just hold on for 6 weeks, do you even have fuel to even sit there for 6 weeks? Or for 2 weeks?
I don't know. I doubt it.
If you're not familiar, it's like an RV on the water, right? It has to produce its own electricity. It has to keep things moving. It has to stay in place, which consumes a lot of fuel. And they're just sitting out there waiting to come in. But what is he doing? He adopted two
twins,
which I think is fantastic.
I do too.
People
I
need
think
to
it's
adopt
wonderful
kids.
that they didn't abort. The woman did not abort her children.
2 months of paternity leave when the whole country is going into this chasm.
And now, of course, you saw what happened. The president is making an appointment to take temporary appointment while he says he's nursing his babies. And then he says, with a bottle, of course.
If you're gonna,
he's not made that way.
I got a lot of De Niro jokes right now with that.
Let me just finish this thought before you get into that. Now, the new guy that he's putting in there temporarily has zero experience in the transportation business.
Has he ever been in a big rig? I'm just curious.
I guarantee it's never happened.
Sorry I interrupted. I just had to say that. This guy has no experience, and you've got a national crisis on your hands, and you put it in the hands of a guy that has no experience.
It's a debacle. Now, Josh, I wanted to ask you about this. Now, you hear this all the time, even though historically separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. It was a letter written by Thomas Jefferson after he was out of office, and it was written to the Danbury Baptists in Connecticut that basically said, you don't have anything to worry about. The government will never interfere. there is a implied separation of church and state where the government will never say when or how you can worship, right? So now with this separation of church and state, it's been accepted that pastors could never promote a candidate from the pulpit, right? They can't say, we want you to vote for them because they stand on Christian values. You're not allowed to do that. The IRS has said, we will sue you. We'll take away your 501c3. But yet, this last weekend, 300 black churches in Virginia got a video played. Did you see this video?
Yeah, I saw it.
Tell us about this.
Well, the problem I feel with our country the last 50 years has been this separation of powers in the church and state. So the lack of God that you've seen, the godlessness that you've seen the last couple decades, and you kind of see it ramping up to where we are today. But the video, and I'm trying to remember exactly what they were saying, but there is a way to beat this. Just go into the private. You don't have to be a 513C.
For the churches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go into the private. They don't have to beat it.
Our illustrious Vice President, Kamala Harris.
Kamala. I just like mispronouncing it on purpose.
Chameleon.
You know?
Okay. So she went on a video in these 300 black churches in Virginia and basically said, you need to vote for this man as the next governor. He was there. He's important. He's a good friend of mine. Early voting starts today, and if you can't vote, go online and you can do it. And she was pushing this whole narrative of he is the only way for Virginia. Now, I'm told that that can't be done, but apparently now it's acceptable.
Well, she was freaking out because when that polling came out, he was up a point. The Republican, Youngkin, was up a point.
Yeah, he was up
in
a
Virginia.
point as of this.
And I think they were kind of freaking out, and they were doing anything and everything they could to try to get a last-second push, regardless of any consequences. You know, to get a last-second push.
Because if the Republicans actually win, that's foreboding for the 2022. And I think the Democrats are through in 2022 anyway, whether Virginia goes Republican or Democrat. I don't believe they can hold on to either the Senate or the House. In the Senate, it looks like perhaps they could lose as many as 6 to 7 seats. The Republicans have a 57-seat majority in the Senate.
Well, let's hope if that does happen, which I hope that it does, that they're not going to drop the ball like they did, because they
have these people that are called rhinos, and it's a shame.
Yeah, but they made repeal and replace. They made promises. The big thumbs down. I mean that whole thing.
No more Paul Ryans.
Yeah,
no more Paul Ryans. John McCain,
honestly,
Cheney.
No more McCarthy.
Cheney's not a senator.
Yeah. We need new leadership. Period. I agree with President Trump on that, and having new leadership in the House and the Senate, that needs to happen. I mean, can you imagine if we had Congressman Paul Gosar as the Speaker of the House?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how different things would be?
Oh, even Andy Biggs.
Any of our Arizona guys, you know?
Yeah.
And can you imagine, like Matt Gaetz has been putting out, and I'm fully supportive of this, and if it ever got to that point, I would be all in ahead of time here. But we can appoint a Speaker that's not in the House.
That's right. A lot of people don't know that the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of the House.
So tell us how this works, Josh.
Well, it's just that he was saying that you can literally vote in a Speaker of the House.
How would we do this? What would be
the new House that would be 2022 would simply get together and vote, and they could vote for President Trump to become the Speaker of the House. We could impeach Biden and Kamala in the House and Senate. We take them both back, and we would install President Trump as the president, or third in line, as the president at that point, and then he could run again in 2024. I think it's a brilliant plan, and I think we should go all in on it.
So let's break this down. So the House could come together and appoint somebody who's not an elected official as the Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. As the Speaker of the House, you are third in command, right? President, Vice President, Speaker of the House. Okay.
Correct.
Then as the body, they would impeach or remove the President and the Vice President, and the Speaker of the House would step in.
Correct.
and they would become president.
Yes.
And then what would happen to the vice president and the speaker
Now
of the
that
House?
I'm not sure on. I don't know if that's appointed or if they get to pick it or if Congress would pick it.
Well, it certainly
I'm not too
would
sure
be
on
a
that, to be
long
honest with you.
shot to do
I don't think
do
so.
that.
I think it's very legitimate.
Well,
We're going to win the House and the Senate back. They have done enough to be impeached.
That is, I don't believe there's any question of that. The scenario you've given, I would suggest is a long shot.
Why?
You know?
It would be a Hail
I
Mary.
think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
It would, I'll tell you what.
I'm having fun with this, guys, okay?
I haven't heard that, and I think we're probably breaking this on here. You've been talking behind the
Breaking
scenes.
news.
But this is, it's so interesting, because, Josh, and the reason why you're
What would
here,
the Democrats do? Would they not do this?
They would freak
Exactly.
out.
They
They'd
would
sure
do
try it.
They would sure as heck try. And we can impeach Biden just off of Afghanistan alone.
Yeah.
And
no, that's
Ukraine.
very true.
And name it. I could name 20
well, a
other
lot of
things right now.
Democrats, really, that's an embarrassment to even the Democrats.
That's true.
And they don't embarrass easily.
It's just amazing how they've lost sight. They're so out of touch from the original concept of the founding
We're
fathers.
poor little sheep, and we've lost our way.
No, I mean they've become this elite. For me, again, and we've talked about this before. Nobody should get retirement doing a public. They're public servants. They're an elected position. When they leave, the money should stop. Period.
I agree.
There should be term limits for everybody there.
And they should not be allowed to
And-
raise their own salaries.
No, they should not.
They just did again.
And also,
In the middle of a pandemic.
whatever they vote on, they must participate in. They can't exempt themselves from health care. They can't exempt
You mean like
themselves
they don't have to get a
from-
COVID shot, but everybody
from
else
all
is
of that.
supposed
Yeah,
to?
they
Or
have
take
to do.
ivermectin.
Yeah, they have to do whatever they pass in law. I think that the laws should be 1 or 2 pages maximum. Each one should stand on its own. That they should not spend their children's inheritance. That they should balance the budget, number one, first and foremost. And if they can't do that, they don't get paid. I mean, let's set down some swift rules and regulations.
If the people in the government were to run a private business, and you're a businessman, you would be out of business by the end of the year.
Man, I wish I could take everything and just make it zero. That would be phenomenal.
Well,
I could do whatever I want and just make it zero.
Yeah. Well,
Man, this is
it's
a great deal.
$3.5 trillion. It's going to cost you zero.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
I love that. It won't cost you anything.
It's zero.
I think I remember to correlate like just how big of a number that is. So, and I'm trying to remember. Hopefully, I get it correct. But a million. What was it? 1 million seconds is 30 years, or something like. If I remember right.
Yeah, I know
And then,
where you're headed.
or no, maybe it was like X number of years, and then or 12 years or whatever it is, and then 1 billion seconds is 30 years, and 1 trillion seconds is 30,000 years. Now, can you imagine?
Wow.
Well, you
And
know, what,
Jesus Christ hadn't
3
even
trillion
walked the
is,
earth.
90,000. It's a long time. So that's the differential between 1 billion and 1 trillion, even, and 1 million and 1 billion.
And it's not the federal government's responsibility to spend our money. It's not their responsibility.
We're going to be back in just a moment. We're speaking with Josh Barnett. And, of course, Ray Michaels is here, and Ron Lutters, of course. And when we get back, we're going to talk about General Colin Powell and how he met his demise today. And we'd like to thank him for the service to America as well. We'll see you on the other side.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
Medicare, for someone new to it, can be a very complex thing to understand. Honestly, unless you are a professional like me, I don't see why anyone would bother trying to learn all the ins and outs of it. Hi, I'm Peter Martin, Senior Planning Specialist. And I'll tell you that after many years of helping clients with Medicare, I would approximate that 80% of seniors are in a Medicare plan that is not ideally suited for them. That's a high number, 80%, but it makes sense. Let's face it, the government does not exactly make Medicare easy to understand. Even once you understand it, there are subtle changes from year to year. Most people have better things to do than to keep up with these changes. Considering that my services as a Medicare broker are free to you, I recommend that you outsource the Medicare plan research task and free yourself up to pursue the more enjoyable aspects of life. It's my job to make sure that my clients minimize their medication costs and retain their favorite doctors and specialists within their networks. I will keep up with the annual changes that take place in your plan and will definitely alert you to anything noteworthy. I'll be a resource for you throughout the year as well. You may want to know the patient ratings of specialists to whom you are referred. You may need help with claims or prescription issues. I will be there when those things come up.
Welcome back to Backstreet Gossip, news talk, current events, and political commentary. And now, here's your host, Ron Lutters.
Hello, and we're heading into winter, so Mr. O'Connor's playing Summer Place.
Yeah, is that theme from a Summer Place?
That's theme from a Summer Place. Yeah. And it's we didn't even have the air conditioner on, I don't think.
That's a great song.
We're here with Josh Barnett, Ray Michaels, and on the phone, if you can hear him, this is an experiment. We have David Jose. Can you hear us, David? David?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We got you.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
a little.
sir. Can you hear me?
It's a little. Yeah, we can hear you just barely. I wanted to talk right now about something that today I was really quite surprised. I did not know the man was sick, and that is General Colin Powell. I think he was a great American. I didn't always agree with him, but he fought in Vietnam. He became a 4-star general. He was Secretary of State. He was a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I think, for both
Reagan.
No.
Bush?
Was it Bush?
Yeah.
And I think Obama for a short time.
He was the first black Secretary of State.
First black Secretary of State, and it's just a really remarkable man. I did not always agree with him. I think towards the latter part of his life, when we had Barack Obama, he was a Republican, but I think he got a little confused, thinking, well, we needed a black person as a president, and we may have, but Barack Obama certainly was not a choice that a Republican should have made, and so that was sad. Now, what's the thing that was so startling today when you heard this was that he was fully vaccinated for COVID.
Yeah.
And he died of COVID.
Yeah. He had cancer, so that was definitely COVID. Maybe
it was a contributing
exacerbated
factor.
it. Made it a contributing factor, but definitely, I would have to say it was probably the cancer that
ultimately
got him.
and therein lies the problem. You see, therein lies the problem. If he died from COVID with 2 shots, then the shots don't work. If he died from cancer rather than COVID, then why chalk it up as a COVID death? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately what our nation is doing. But he was a great American as far as I'm concerned. I really, really liked him, both as a military man. He fought valiantly in Vietnam. He was a very decorated Vietnam veteran and made a 4-star general. Wow, that's really going up there.
Yeah.
And so he will be missed. But I just wanted to talk about that for a minute, about this whole concept. And Josh, you talked a little bit about ivermectin a few minutes in the last section. We didn't go into detail, and we always seem to get in trouble with some of our social media groups when we talk about this. And this is really a shame. I'm just going to make a public statement. We need to talk about these issues. Rogan talked about this with some of the CNN people, Dr. Subjay Gupta. And he embarrassed Gupta because they're talking, things that work. It doesn't matter whether you chew bubble gum and it gets rid of COVID. It doesn't have to be a $2,000 shot that gets rid of it. And let's talk a little bit about that, because you said that. And David, if you have something to say about this too, we're talking about ivermectin.
Ron, turn that phone around so that it faces the. There you go.
Okay, can you hear us now, David?
No. Turn it to where the speaker.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
There. That's
Yes,
better.
I can hear you
That's a
pretty
lot
good.
better.
Okay, so we're talking about ivermectin, and of course, as you know, when we talk about this, the powers that be just they're not understanding. They don't want discussion, free speech, and Ray, that's I've decided one of our mottos should be free speech for a free people.
Yeah, and Ron, before he answers that question, I want to get back to the Declaration of Independence, because it pretty well lays it out. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that we've all been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights.
And that's God.
Which include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So our life should be in our hands because God has given us that right. Our life, our liberty, our ability to make our own decision, and our pursuit of happiness. What makes us happy? May not make everybody happy, but it gives us the ability to make that decision. So given that, and knowing that the CDC is actually the Center for Disease Control and Prevention,
which you never hear about,
and what you were talking about, ivermectin, is a preventative measure, not necessarily
curative,
a curative or the treatment after the fact. It's a prevention. So give us your take on our ability as a free people to make our own decisions, and the government withholding the ability for us to do so.
Let's see if David could answer.
David,
can you hear that question?
Because we've written about, seems like 1 million affidavits in relation to this.
David, did you hear that question? David? I think we lost David. At any rate, Josh, why don't you respond to that?
Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
There you go, David. We're talking about being how the people fight back against mandated vaccines and or not being allowed to take certain medications that can help.
Yeah, we're having trouble with that connection. So let's move on here. I know you've discussed it. We've all discussed this.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Josh. Why don't you tell us what your thoughts are on this?
Well, again, it comes down to your rights.
Can you guys hear me better
Yeah, we can hear you a little bit better.
now?
Yeah,
Yes.
a little bit better.
Okay, I'm going to.
Okay.
Ron, we're going to have to work
Yeah,
hard
we're going to
on-
have to work harder at this connection. But at any rate, Josh, continue. We can't have a lot of
You're
dead air
in
while
control
we're
of
trying
your
to
own
connect.
private health. Constitutionally, no one can dictate or mandate anything on you.
It's a God-given right.
And
Yes,
Ray,
it's a God-given right. They cannot do anything about it. And your liberty, what you brought up, liberty, also your liberty interest, which is your children, that you, as the parent, have control over their private health. and the government cannot take control of that. We
Ray
are not
always
persons.
gives a disclaimer here. Ray, you do it so well. Why don't you do this again? Because this is why we have free speech.
Yeah.
I'll try
So,
calling him again.
so basically, what Ron wants me to do is to let you know that we do a lot of research here. We bring on guests. We give you our opinion on things as best as we know it. Now, we encourage everyone to go out there, do your own research. This is all things that we've gathered together. We've compiled it into something that's easy for us to express to you. But again, whether or not you like vaccines, you don't like vaccines, it's really none of our business. We will tell you how we are not anti-vaccine. We are not anti-medical care. We just believe that every citizen of the United States has the individual right, individual liberty, and individual freedom to make their own choice for their own body. And, we've heard that year after year after year for these pro-choice candidates that says, my body, my choice. Hey, listen,
Yes.
It's exactly the same. It's my body. It should be my choice.
And interestingly enough, we talk about the ivermectin thing, and Rogan really got on Gupta and
Sanjay
Gupta.
Yeah.
And more than that, he got on. Oh, you've got that now? Okay, why don't you play it, Mr. O'Connor? This is cool. You'll really enjoy this, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on
You
the
have
ledger.
you have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before
But they
coming
did
on
it
your
with
podcast.
such glee.
No,
Yes,
Joe.
they did. I watched.
Yeah, they did kind of do it with such glee. And also, it wasn't just CNN, just to be clear. There were many other news outlets that also reported that Joe Rogan had taken horse dewormer. So we can't just put it all on CNN. It was quite a few others as well.
Good on the doctor though for being willing to actually have for going on into an environment where he knew he was going to be deservedly challenged, but more people should be willing to do that. So I am glad to see that they had that discussion and where Rogan obviously got the better of him because you can't justify how CNN handled that story, but good on him nonetheless.
And that's really an important thing. That what he said at the end there is so important because the public has the right to know. They really do. And when there's differences of opinion, the airwaves of America are owned by the people.
Yes.
So the information that we get should be fair and accurate. And it's okay to have different
Opinion.
people with different opinions. Now, I pulled up some things here on ivermectin. It has been, and people say that it hasn't been approved by the FDA, Federal Drug Administration, but it has not been approved as an antiviral medication, but it has been approved. And it is an anti-parasitic drug that is used for, and I'm not even going to attempt to say the names of these drugs. I don't know if you could say them, but I sure can't. And anyway,
We'll let you go ahead and take those.
I'm not going to say them either. Maybe Ray can say
what it's to treat.
Yeah,
So
treat certain things.
it's used to treat several neglected tropical diseases, including helminthiasis and scabies, on cholerasis.
Nice try, Ray.
Yeah, it's basically it's for people in third world countries, this is registered to treat. Now, you've heard of Rogaine, right?
Yes.
Okay, they use it for what? What is Rogaine used for?
Growing hair.
Growing hair, right? But the FDA
It's not
originally
approved,
no, it was sent to the FDA as a heart medication, and one of the side effects of this heart medication was the regrowing of hair. And they said, well, we don't want it to treat the heart, we want it to treat the hair because that's where the money is. So although ivermectin was approved as an anti-parasitic drug, but it hasn't been fully approved for the use
Which doesn't mean it doesn't
COVID-19.
work.
Right. It just means that there are several things that it can do. And you know what?
We do this all the time.
Yeah.
This type of stuff.
Yeah,
Hydroxychloroquine's used for rheumatoid arthritis
Now,
and many other things. So there's
Right.
other uses for
But
it.
here's the thing. Okay, doctors used to say, do no harm. Well, this is a drug that's been around like hydrochloroquine forever, and they're not known for doing harm to people.
So do we know if maybe an overdose of this could cause
an overdose of
adverse
anything
side effects?
can kill people.
I'm sure it probably could.
Right?
If you took the amount a horse would take, I'm sure it probably wouldn't be too
Well,
healthy.
let's talk about that for a minute. What is the price, the cost to the government, because most of these vaccines are quasi-free. What is the new vaccines, if you will, I just call them shots because they're not vaccines in the true sense of the word. What do they cost?
Well, they're not free. See, they say they're free.
Well, we don't know.
But they're very expensive.
They go through Title 42 federal programs. So they're getting their money from our tax money.
Right.
It's not free.
So do we know how much? Do we know how much is being charged?
I'm going to tell you this. I bought some ivermectin. Okay, and I bought the type that they're talking about here is an antiparasitic. I paid $9.95, I think, rounded off to $10 with tax. Okay, and it's for an animal that weighs 1,200 pounds. Well, simple math says that if you weigh 120 pounds, you take 10% of that. If you weigh 250 or 260, you double that, okay? And so if you take it according to the, what's it going to, it should not harm you. And apparently in Rogan's case, it did not harm him.
No, it was prescribed by a physician for him. And what they did is they said, well, it's ivermectin, it's a horse dewormer. Well, it's a narrative that they just want to push out because who in their right mind would take medication for a horse?
Well, we know how many things that are used that humans use and animals use. There's
of
tons
course.
of things that happen. You saw the meme came out today. It was like kind of a joke that they showed kids eating apples, and they were saying, children are eating, horse feed.
food.
And
Mr. O'Connor buys apples all the time and feeds it to the horse.
Well,
people
don't they
behind
say
me have
an
a horse.
apple a day keeps
the doctor away.
For the horse.
But let's get keep the horse doctor.
that away.
But let's look at this. Let's just say 10%, okay, of that. It's $10, and you're taking 10%, which means that a dose of this is
Costs
$1.
It's $1.
And I know that the things that the big pharma are selling.
The ivermectin from a doctor it's change, literally change per pill.
Now I'm curious, did you get this at the dollar store when you went shopping earlier?
No, but I won't tell you where I got it. But here's the important thing: $1 per dose versus, let's say, $800 per dose. If you were big pharma, what would you want to push? $800 per dose, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to make much money at $1 per dose.
Josh, we had a doctor on, and of course hydroxychloroquine was a big thing. But he said, you know what, why don't you just get it directly from the source? Hydroxychloroquine comes from quinine. And what's funny is you go into Fry's, and you go down and you pick up tonic water, and you know what it says? Contains
Quinine. I drink that all the time.
So it's not as though it's everything is like this smoke and mirrors, and you see it all the time. And again, we tell you do your own research, but it's pretty well laid out. You just have to have a little bit of common sense and know to follow the money.
Well, quinine, there's different forms of quinine, so that's a little different. It has a somewhat of an effect, like hydroxychloroquine would, but you also have, like, for example, quinine sulfate that keeps people from cramping.
Yes.
So
leg
there's
cramps
a
and
lot
so
of
forth. Yes.
There's specific things you can take that your body's dehydrated, or a bodybuilder is dehydrated and they're cramping terribly. I've had that happen before.
What's the mineral? Because I was thinking about this.
Quinine does solve that.
What is the mineral that you're depleted of if you have a lot of cramps? Or
potassium, magnesium.
Potassium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eat bananas.
See, I'll tell you, if you want to know anything about working out, health, nutrition,
he's the man.
Josh, can we say the name of your gym here?
Yeah.
What's the name of your gym?
It's Metroflex Gym.
Metroflex, and where's it located?
North Phoenix. It's right off of 19th Avenue in Rose Garden.
For those of you who haven't seen Josh on the show before, when everything else was closed down, and they said you can't have it, you have to wear masks, you got to close down, you had your gym open, 100% open, no masks, music playing. Were there high fives going on too?
Oh, people were happy. I had people all over the valley coming.
That was amazing.
All over the valley because there's nowhere else to go.
And what's amazing about Josh is not only did he say, I'm just going to keep this for me, but you worked with, 120 different gyms around the country to have them open up as well in some of the toughest places, California, New Jersey, I think New York as well.
Yes. Yeah, we have them opened up all over the country, over 117 different businesses around the country.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's Candace Taylor calling me from Georgia.
And this man
is she watching you on the show?
Watch this.
This man is truly an entrepreneur because he found
Hey, Candace,
a way
can
to
you hear
deal
me?
with it.
Hey, yeah, you busy?
Hey, I'm on a live talk show right now on the Ron Lutter Show on Facebook, Hub Radio on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
You want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, everybody. How are
Hey,
y'all?
welcome to the show.
She just got endorsed by Mike Lindell.
All
Running for
right.
governor of Georgia.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. Don't you love how we're connected from Georgia to Arizona because we're going to bring both states down?
Oh yes, we've
correct the vote?
That's right.
we've had one of your people, Garland Favorito, on our show, and when he was here, we actually had him in the studio. So, and if Josh would be kind enough to share your information, we'd like to have you on the show because the people in Arizona are really concerned about Georgia. But
Absolutely.
I mean-
I would love to come on. It'd be my honor. Y'all, thank y'all for letting me say hey. And Josh, when you get done, call me. I got to tell you something important.
I can't wait to hear about it.
That's awesome. Hey, we
I
love.
have a feeling I know what it is.
We
but I can't wait.
we love the Georgia peaches. That's for sure.
That's right.
I like the barbecue the peaches. Have you ever done that?
No. A Georgia peach is a girl, I think,
Oh,
in Georgia.
okay.
Isn't that right?
Or the pecans.
We actually have peaches too.
Is it Candace, is it pecans? Or how do I say it right?
It's pecans.
Pecans.
Pecans, yeah. That's my grandfather used to say.
Between
Pecans.
pecans and audits.
Georgia.
Georgia.
Pecans and pickles.
I always thought that was a latrine, a pecan.
Okay, Candace, I'll call you when I'm done here, okay? Okay.
Good talking to
All
you.
right, so Josh, tell everybody who Candace is.
Candace is running for governor of Georgia against Brian Kemp, CCP Kemp.
Oh.
And I won't say his name.
No.
But
Mike
if
Mike
you guys saw the
Lindell-
interview with Stu Peters, you'll see why I'm not too high up on the other person.
All right, so Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy,
Yes.
has just endorsed her.
Correct.
And I'm sure that she's a favorite from President Trump as well.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
think
We
so,
will
yeah.
see. We're hoping obviously that he.
He's not a
gets in that
friend
race.
of Kemp, that's for sure.
Well, he's not a friend of Kemp, and if he finds out, if he just watches an interview with Stu Peters, with the other guy, I think it'll be eye-opening to a lot of people who kind of held him up on a pedestal, being the person who switched over to the Republican Party, but some of his true colors came out. It actually was even surprising to me. And I knew a few things, but it was surprising to me about how he handled that situation. It was not pretty.
See, this is what's amazing watching Hub Radio Phoenix here because we get breaking news all the time, and there's a lot of connections that some other people don't know. You're talking about Garland, who is on, and he is heading up the whole audit in Georgia. He was actually on our show, and the next day you saw him on the national, a lot of the syndicated shows as well. We covered it here on Hub Radio, and we do break a lot of stories here.
It is amazing that, and we had Josh Bernstein the other night, and he broke the news that the Attorney General of the United
Merrick
States,
Garland,
Merrick Garland, it also had family that was involved in some things that, it was okay perhaps for them to be in it, but he was making rulings that would benefit them financially.
Yeah.
And that was broken right here. And it was funny because, Ray, I thought, wow, that is really something. How come I haven't heard it on the mainstream media? And
the next day,
a day or two,
right.
it was all over
That's
the media.
Yeah, Merrick Garland's son-in-law was selling CRT manuals and materials to public schools for millions.
That's critical race theory,
Yeah,
if you don't know what CRT is.
He had a contract with the government to sell this stuff, and there he is pushing it. And,
they're going after parents and threatening to call them domestic terrorists for standing up against the teaching of CRT in our schools.
Okay, so we have just a couple more minutes here, but let us, I want to get your idea on how far we've come and how much the federal government has usurped not only the state sovereignty, but individual sovereignty by sending the DOJ after regular people and parents, and a governor candidate in Virginia saying that parents really don't have any say over what's taught.
Don't and should not have any say so over what their children are taught.
Any parent in Virginia that votes for that guy needs to go get psychologically tested.
How far away from the founding fathers' original ideas of the Constitution and how this country should be formed? How far have we come from that basic foundation?
I feel that our founding fathers would have already had their muskets pulled out and shot people at
Well,
this point. I don't think they would have played around with it. They understood the importance of what they were doing, and they knew when they signed that Declaration of Independence that was a death sentence. You know, if they got caught, they are going to be hung.
And remember
or
this.
Worse.
Remember this about the Constitution. If it's not in the Constitution, it is delegated to the states, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. And if you read the Constitution, you will see nothing about education in the Constitution. It is not a federal issue. It strictly belongs to the states.
I agree with Thomas Massey. He put a bill out to basically abolish the education system here.
Yeah.
Or the federal education system.
Yeah, well, we have a Department of Education, which doesn't educate anybody.
Well, we had Diane Douglas here, who was former superintendent, and she said that that whole thing had been not a cabinet position, but it had been in the works for quite a long time, just in the background, and it was Carter that brought it up to a cabinet position. But again, there's a lot of things that are not constitutional that are being taken by the federal government. And again, we come back to what we talked about when we first started. People think that the federal government is the be-all and end-all of everything.
Nope.
And it's not. It's the individual states.
And as much as I loved Ronald Reagan, he did talk about abolishing that. He never had a chance. He never got it done.
Well, you need the support too. I mean, there's so many things that President Trump wanted to do, but he didn't have the support. I mean, I come back to the whole healthcare system. I mean, it was our senator who did the thumbs down, and the whole.
That was Senator McCain, and much to my chagrin, I could not believe the theatrics that he did.
The whole thing was repeal and replace, repeal and
Well,
replace.
they're doing the same thing now with this $3.5 trillion thing. What they do is they start these programs. Once you start these programs, you're never going to get rid of them.
Right.
And that's what the Department of Education was. It was just a program that grew into this absurd, fascist, thing we're dealing with today.
It's a monster.
Well, I hear some music in the background.
You do?
And it's becoming louder and louder. So I guess that means the clock has run down. So you've been watching Hub Radio with Josh Barnett, Ray Michaels, and Ron Lutters. And you tune in Wednesday night. We're going to do Fighting Back.
Yeah. And tell David Jose we'd love to have him back on.
I'll get him on. He just had a car issue.
You always have an invitation here.
We'll get him on here. We'll have a good time with him.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so thank you for watching. Thank you for Mr. O'Connor driving this big bus. He has another bus that he drives too,
and a van,
and a van without a front bumper. So we'll see you Wednesday night.
Are you tired of the long lines and impersonal service you get at the post office? Well, we have a solution for you. Pack Mail is an all-in-one mail center conveniently located in the Fry Shopping Center at 3218 East Bell Road, right here in Phoenix. Owned and operated by Arizona residents Mark and Vicky Battaglia, you can be sure of getting personalized professional service. They will pack, crate, freight, and ship your items anywhere in the world. They work with all the major carriers like DHL, UPS, USPS, and Federal Express. Need an address for your home business or startup company? They have P.O. boxes on site where you can receive and pick up your mail anytime, and their knowledgeable and courteous staff we'll find a way to ship that awkward or heavy item. You can even have your packages picked up and delivered for a small fee. Their motto is, if you can imagine it, we can ship it. Drop in on the good folks at Pack Mail and let them do the work for you. Pack Mail can be reached at 602-971-2300 or email at info@weshipphoenix.com. That's Pack Mail, 602-971-2300 or info@weshipphoenix.com.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our two-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
Folks, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb here. With the increase in private businesses and even government organizations talking about mandating the vaccine, I wanted to let you know that here at the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, we do not mandate the vaccine, and as long as I'm your sheriff, we will never mandate the vaccine. We believe that your health choices are yours and yours alone, so whether you get the vaccine or don't get the vaccine, that's your private information. Here, we believe in America and freedom, and we're going to continue on with that. God bless.